All right. Hey, Liam, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Great. So thanks for joining me today. We've had a lot of success together over the last few months, and I was really inspired by what we've been able to accomplish with Reddit, and I just felt like it was a good time to schedule time to talk to you and have you go through your presentation for some of our clients and some of our followers. And I think for me, my takeaway, having worked with Reddit over the past 6 months or so now, is that it's an often overlooked platform for people that are selling physical products. I think it sort of has a reputation, and it might not be the first place people think about selling products. Like an Amazon or Walmart or even TikTok, and we've found a lot of success, and that's why I wanted to invite you to this conversation. So I'm Brandy Alexander. I'm with Tandemtide. For those of you who don't know me, we are an omni-channel marketing agency, and we are Amazon partners. We're Shopify partners. We build a lot of WooCommerce sites. We also manage social media across a wide spectrum of channels, including TikTok to Instagram to Meta, and everything in between. And so we've been working with Reddit now for a few months, and it's been awesome. So I'm going to turn it over to Liam, who's my contact over there, and he's going to sort of walk through, just sort of what he manages on his side and how Reddit can be a really powerful platform to consider. Take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate the introduction, Brandy, for sure. It's been great working with you these past couple of weeks and months. And I think you're right. I think a lot of the time, Reddit is overlooked as a first choice. And I think what my role is here is to make sure that, not only individual clients, but also agencies and everyone in between have the ability to understand what the benefits are for them individually, and how we can work together to make sure the platform performs best for individual goals. So really, my agenda and sort of what my overall goal is here is to get everyone to understand the ultimate why behind it. People may have an understanding of what Reddit is on the top end of things, but understanding the why behind some of the platform decisions from an advertising and from a user perspective is really what makes the platform super special. And to give a quick introduction to myself, I'm really here as a point of contact to make sure everyone who's on the platform gets the best possible outcome that they're looking for, whether that be performance, whether that be from an upper funnel strategy, maybe that's a lower funnel strategy specifically, or everything in between. And that's really where I want to make sure I'm doing the most I can to help you, Brandy, your clients, and everyone else succeed on the platform. I think the biggest thing that's misunderstood about Reddit is it may not be as mainstream as something like Facebook or something like Instagram, but we do see an immense amount of year-over-year growth comparatively to those other platforms as well. We have seen almost 60% year-over-year growth compared to other social media platforms where some in decline while others are growing at a slightly lower rate. And what this shows us is people are itching for something that feels more genuine than other platforms, and we think Reddit is that place where users go to have those conversations about topics and interests and everything else that they might be wanting to have conversations peer to peer about certain things. And I think another misconception, Brandy, to kind of hit your point in terms of maybe why it's a bit overlooked, is this idea that the demographics skew toward one versus another. I think, and through the data that we've seen, it's an amalgamation of an entire spectrum of people that have different interests, different hobbies, different life histories, different perspectives. And all of those come together into one platform to create these communities that we see huge amounts of engagement in. And our demographics show that. We do see an almost 50-50 split male female, a very wide demographic of age ranges, and a median household of just north of $100,000, which is the highest, out of all the social media platforms, and higher than the U.S. median.
Liam, we have a quick question. Is the growth rate global or U.S. only that you're talking about?
This growth rate here is U.S. but it is global as well. I don't have the numbers on that specifically on this deck, but it is global. And in the ads dashboard platform, when let's say you're on the platform advertising, you do have the capability to go worldwide if you wanted to, or nail it down to just the US. This specifically is US focused.
Awesome.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think,
Oh, we've got one more request to go back one slide.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. This one?
Yep.
Yeah. A specific question on this slide?
Yep. I think we're good.
Good? Okay. Awesome. I think going back to the point that I was making previously of comparatively to other social media platforms as year-over-year growth, I think a lot of it has to do with users being a bit tired of this sort of influencer dominated market that I feel like is popping up so frequently now in other social media platforms. And what we've seen is a lot of users find Reddit organically and they tend to stay on the platform, and we see them stay at a rate that they're using the platform only as their main platform. It's their main platform of choice. And what this slide goes over is this idea of an unduplicated audience on the platform and a unique audience that you're not seeing on these other sites. So my goal is not necessarily to take Facebook or to take Meta holistically out of a marketing mix. My goal is to introduce the platform to you guys and to show you why the platform has so much value. And a big reason to that is the audience, for the most part, is not on these other platforms. It's a totally new audience that maybe has not seen your product at all, or if any, in a very small sense. So these new eyes are a great way of showcasing your product to a highly intent user base, super, super focused on research, discussion, and having conversations about the platform and products and services that they might want to try. And this just shows that percentage of people saying they are not on that certain platform. So 30% said they're not on Facebook, almost 40% not on Instagram, and so on and so on. This slide goes over the idea that we have been around for a very long time. And I think maybe that's a big misconception as well, that it's a new platform that's just popping up right now. Reddit has been around since 2005, and it's seen an immense amount of growth, and a lot of the platform is user dominated content. I would say 99.9% of the platform is user dominated content. So it's as big as the users itself, and it's as unique as the users itself. And since we see a massively unduplicated audience across the site, we're seeing an immense amount of engagement that is not seen on these other platforms. And Reddit is that place for the majority of people to have those genuine conversations and to make sure that what they actually are looking for can be found, instead of kind of in a sea of influencer dominated style marketing.
Well, and then one thing I just want to chime in here that I think I like as a digital marketer, especially in the CPG space, is people use it for a search engine, right? They're using it for recommendations. They're skipping Google, they're skipping other platforms, and they're going here for more authentic answers where they don't feel like they're necessarily being marketed to.
100%. And that is sort of the next point. I think this is a massive portion of the users who come to the platform, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this right now have been to the platform from a Google search, and we see a massive amount of people coming from Google and ultimately staying on the platform. Just in the last year, it was the 6th most Googled word, with about 23 billion times someone chose a Reddit search result from Google search. This is showcased through our partnership with Google to make sure that Reddit is being seen wide scale, to make sure that people get those real perspectives that aren't necessarily being shown from other platforms. Or it might be, in that sort of, like what you said, this sort of field of marketing that is kind of what Google search is nowadays, where people don't really know where to click. Reddit is seen as that one place where people can go and find whatever it is they're looking for. And I'm sure people watching this have had a question, they've searched it on Google and Reddit has popped up. They clicked on Reddit and they found their answer immediately. And that's sort of the draw of the platform, and it brings people in, and then they can have all of what the platform has to offer, whether it be the communities on the platform that are dominated by users specifically who are engaging in conversations about topics they're interested in, the ability to vote and sort of have upvotes and downvotes showing what users are liking and what they don't like. If you see a comment with, negative downvotes, and then you see a comment right next to it with, positive upvotes, that means that you should probably listen to the one with positive upvotes, right? And it's this sort of community dominated, town square style ideology of a platform that really speaks to its value from an advertising sense, which we have seen. And I know, Brandon, we've worked together previously, and I think it's this idea of utilizing community targeting, where people are having these conversations in these communities to ultimately understand about the Redditor what it is they're looking for, and we can identify that based on the community. We don't have to do any more guessing. And from a user perspective, we do see people feeling more comfortable about advertisers on the platform comparatively to other social media platforms as well.
And I think, just to chime in here,
go for it.
One of the questions is, how would you describe Reddit's place in a retail consumer journey? And I think my first sort of reaction to that is, like, we work in the pet category. And so what we're able to do is, from an advertising standpoint, we're able to target these communities that are really focused on not just pet, but also more niche audiences, like, for example, hamster food, gerbil food, chinchillas. We're able to get our specific product mix in front of people that are already in the community, talking about these animals. And then, so it does feel like we're targeting, a super specific audience. And then, so that product discovery, I think, is key from 100%. A standpoint.
100%. I think it takes a lot of the guesswork out of finding your audience, which I think is also another big draw. And considering the users on the platform already feel more comfortable about advertisements comparatively to other platforms, with, the ultimate platform being its own sort of town square, where they're trying to research new topics, they're trying to look for new products, they're trying to look for new services. And through that, we can find that, users actually don't really feel too bad about it. They feel like it's giving them genuine information. It's pointing them in a direction that they're already searching for. And through those targeting levers that you were just talking about, we can find those users who are already engaged in those conversations, who are already looking for a specific topic on, food for their hamster or food for their dog or whatever it is, instead of trying to hope that when we're sending it out to the ether, we're hoping that that person who sees it is actually interested in that topic. That guesswork is kind of taken out on Reddit for the most part, because we can isolate users on such a fine-tuned level that it really benefits the advertiser and the actual user itself. 100%. And I think it goes to show, with people saying that they're more likely to trust a brand. Almost 75% said they're more likely to go in a deep dive or category on a certain topic and have genuine conversations about products and brands that they want to try or they have tried previously. And this just speaks to the advertising portion of the site as well, with almost 30% of people saying they're more likely to actually purchase a product that they see advertised on Reddit comparatively to other platforms. They're more valuable customers, with a higher, with spending about 2.5 times more per purchase. And that goes to show through our median household income as well. And we're looking at just north of 100,000% incremental ROAS through Reddit ads. And this has really, really helped us blend advertising and our user dominated space in a way that makes it feel good for the user. That's our main goal, is to make sure they don't get the same vibe they get when they're on other platforms with ads, where people almost are tending to block them out of their mind at a certain point. Reddit, it's almost leaned into the fact of, this is a platform for researching and finding out better products. This is something that this advertiser feels is going to benefit you specifically, based on what you have been doing on your other communities, based on what your search preferences are, based on what you've done from a keyword perspective, whatever it is. This, we know, is going to benefit you, and here it is, right? And then it's up to the user to take that information, research it some more, go through the topic, and really make an informed decision, which is ultimately what we want the user to do. 100%. We touched on this a little bit already. Targeting on the platform, wide scale spectrum. Biggest thing that I like to point out, obviously, is community targeting. I've mentioned it before. It is the bread and butter of the platform. Through the communities on the site, we're able to identify ones that might fit our product alignment a little bit better. And utilizing it, we can isolate a group of people that we already know has a high intent or high interest in whatever the topic is, whether that be dog food or whether that be buying a new car or whether that be specifically a car make and model, right?
Yeah, and I just want to kind of mention, just for people that aren't all that familiar with Reddit, I was sort of blown away with how many different communities or subreddits are available for a marketer out there, where there are these like authentic, genuine communities where people are talking about whatever sort of topic, from like vegan products to, like, we're talking about like pet food, like pet care for specific, everything from like small animals to dogs and other things. So there's just so many communities that you can select as you do your targeting, that really get specific on the audience that you're looking for. I think that's really the magic here.
100%, yeah. And I think it's almost, and to your point, I think a lot of people don't really understand. I think they've been on the platform maybe a couple of times from Google. They've seen maybe what it can offer. But when you're looking in the ads dashboard of seeing what type of communities are available from just typing in, maybe healthy living, right? And seeing all of these different communities pop up based on whatever it is that we're actually looking for the actual consumer, is an incredible tool that I feel like a lot of people don't even know exists, right? And this is something that we can see throughout our funnel. And we like to think of the targeting levers as funnel specific targeting, where if we're looking for something like reach, interest group targeting is fantastic for that. If we're looking for something a little bit more mid to lower funnel, that's where things like communities and keywords really thrive. I see community targeting as a staple on the platform from an advertising sense, and you would be amiss to not utilize it in a campaign because of how powerful it is from an advertising sense. And keywords obviously blending between this sort of behavioral and contextual mindset of, hey, behavioral, we're looking at people's behavior through their communities that they're interested in and that they're engaged in. And keyword is obviously that contextual of what people are talking about in the moment. And we can find those conversations happening, as well as find those users that are engaged in this sort of topic or interest through community and keyword or community and interest targeting. 100%. I think you already had mentioned that a little bit previously of not really understanding that from a sense of never being on the platform before. And I think a user can be on the platform from a personal sense and almost be still blown away by the advertising capabilities on the end of things. Like people can understand what it is as a platform and they could be on it all the time. But what an advertiser has the ability to do really is sort of eye-opening from a perspective of, this is something that we can utilize in tandem with Meta, in tandem with LinkedIn, in tandem with Pinterest, whatever else it is, because of how powerful it is and the user base that's on the platform that we may not be reaching with those other avenues.
Yeah, and one thing, just when questions about the metrics, like how are we sort of quantifying success? It's, I've definitely seen, with all the brands that we've worked with on Reddit now, a huge boost in impression volume, and that does resonate with sales too. So we can say that there's a direct line of communication from somebody seeing our ad on Reddit in one of these sort of niche subreddit communities and then actually making a purchase. So that's we have a clear line of sight into that, and that's some back end things that we do with like Shopify and some other tools that we have, but we are able to really understand, that conversion flow.
100%. And we're working, and our goal for 2025 was to make the shopping experience on Reddit better. That was one of our main goals that we were looking at on our product roadmap. And I know a huge portion of that is through metric tracking, right? Through KPI tracking and understanding what types of third-party verification and third-party reporting are people using. And through that, we can have integrations with them on the actual ads dashboard. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of, hey, we know someone came from Reddit, but did that actually contribute to a purchase? We're making huge headway on making sure that when someone comes from Reddit, or when someone has seen it on Reddit, or when someone has clicked through on Reddit, we understand the value of that impression and the value of that click holistically across all channels, which I think is super, super important for CPG in general, is for the attribution to make sense. And I think having Reddit there in that space as another funnel to drive either impressions or traffic or clicks or just anything in general, is huge to be able to improve purchases, and not only just ROAS on Reddit, but ROAS across your entire portfolio and through all your different channels. 100%. I like to take sort of this last bit to really look at what the ad unit capability is. Very, very similar to Meta, to LinkedIn, everything like that you're probably familiar with. I think the biggest thing on Reddit is to understand the user and what they're really there to do. It's kind of in the name, Reddit. We want to make sure that when we are looking at these different types of advertisements on the platform, we're really trying to make sure it stands out comparatively to maybe some of the advertisements on your different channels. Reddit is very, very special, and we want to be able to take that sort of speciality of the platform and enhance the actual advertisements to make sure it aligns with that space as well. And we do that through a mix of either having different types of ad types on the platform, with maybe running a static and some video, adjusting the copy to make it a little bit more Reddit aligned in terms of being more meta, right? And that's not a pun. I'm not trying to make a pun towards meta. It really is be more meta on the platform. Understand where you're coming from and what platform you're on, and users will follow. Redditors especially love that type of humor. They love that type of breaking the third wall from an advertiser standpoint. And we see this kind of being done through influencer marketing. But the issue with influencer marketing is the user can't tell how genuine that actually is. And it kind of breaks that fourth wall in a way that is a negative, versus something like this, where we're coming directly to the user and saying, hey, this is an advertisement. We are paying for you to see this, but there's a reason behind it. We're not just throwing it out there. We know you're aligned with this product. We know you're aligned with this, item, this service, whatever it is. And this is why we want you to see it, right? It's not so much thrown out there willy-nilly. There is a purpose behind everything. And we've seen that occur on the platform through a different variety of advertisers, whether that be B2B, whether that be CPG, whether that be anything in between. And through the different placements we have in feed and conversation, we can align with users' behavior, whether it's we're trying to get, let's just say a product seen in conversations happening about a product, versus we want someone who's really high intent on this certain topic or service to see it in their home feed or while they're scrolling their home feed. And that's where we can really differ with the targeting and really pinpoint exactly what we're looking for. Because if it's very highly targeted contextual, what we're looking for, and we want, let's just say it's hamster food and we want to have conversations about the best hamster food, we can utilize conversation placement to show up in between those conversations about hamster food, which I think is super, super important to be able to make sure that we're actually hitting the right user, which is ultimately, I think, the goal of everything. Freeform is the most unique ad type on the platform. Everything else, carousel, image, video, very, very standard, very, very typical. Freeform is completely unique to Reddit. It takes the advantages of the platform from a user sense in terms of what they're able to do on the platform in a post, and it gives that power to an advertiser on the promoted post side. You're allowed a headline with about 200 characters, and then a body with 40,000 characters. What this really allows you to do is give massive amounts of context to your product, give answers to FAQs right away, give anything that you might feel the user could benefit by seeing, give it up front. The entire platform, Reddit, it's in its name, right? People are on the platform to read and learn. This is not a turnoff for these people and for these users to see a post about something they're interested in that they can read more about directly on site. And that is something we're super passionate about, is being able to give information like this inside of the platform. We can still drive site traffic by having hyperlinks inside of the post. You can also have images, you can also have videos, you can also have formatting, everything like that. But what we really want to do is be able to give the most amount of information so the user feels confident and comfortable about their choice in product or service or whatever it is. And Freeform is a fantastic way of doing that. And it's probably my favorite ad type on the platform, and we see massive amounts of success when utilizing it properly. When I say utilizing it properly, I really mean understanding the platform is the number one biggest thing. Understanding who is going to be seeing it and what they're most likely going to want out of that product or have a question about that product. Being able to identify different things about a product, that maybe is important, right? If it's organically sourced, if it's a food item that you're advertising to vegans, so we can make sure that is aligned with what their core beliefs are immediately in the post, without having to have a headline or a copy for a static that's takes up half of the image, right? We know we want shorter headlines for something like images. With freeform, we can give all of that context in a way that actually is benefiting us and not taking anything away like it would maybe in a static image post.
And I think that's super important, because a lot of people on other platforms, just think about it that way. There's a good question here. For freeform, would you recommend that someone from the brand be monitoring and responding to the questions? So that is a good question for Reddit, because it does work a little bit differently than, like a Meta.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And comments are able to be turned on and off. They're off by default. You can turn them on if you're trying to promote discussion, which is the one place where I do see a massive amount of advertisers turn it on. I do, and we always recommend having someone on the client side be there to answer questions and to be the one to respond to the product inquiries. The biggest place we see comments being turned on is when the freeform post is trying to actually engage in conversation. They're proposing a question. They want people to comment. I think the biggest thing that people do incorrectly with comments is not have anything of value that is actually proposing any sort of question or proposing a conversation topic, and leaving comments on, hoping people are going to come up with their own conversation, right? That is the one thing that I feel like sets apart Reddit from maybe another type of comment enabled post, is the users are there, and obviously we know they're engaged in that type of conversation already. So what can we do from an advertising sense to stoke that conversation and get people excited about the product? And that's where freeform ads come in, and that's where a lot of creativity can be played with. And it's super, super awesome, the examples that I've seen of how you can actually have those conversations with users directly on the platform, which is awesome. But to answer your question, 100%, we do recommend someone from the client side be there to answer questions, or to go through the comments and reply in whatever way see fit. Lastly, best practices that we see for copy and creative. We went over a little bit of this already. We do have about 80% mobile, so big on building for mobile. And really everything we kind of went over, right? We want to be a brand. We want to make sure that the users understand what we actually are, what we're coming from. If that's a vegan-based, food distribution service or food distribution product, let them know that, right? Like, we're here for them. We're here to support your values, and doing that in a way that's upfront and honest is a great way of gathering customers that are going to be long-standing customers. Reddit is something that I kind of went over a little bit previously as well, where we're looking for this sort of meta approach to the actual post that we kind of saw in those examples previously of, addressing Reddit directly. It's okay to say, hey, r/vegan, right? It's okay to say, hey, r/hamsters. Like, we know you guys love your hamsters, and this is a product that we know that you'll love and that they'll love at the same time, right? It's okay to address them directly, and we recommend that to a degree, because it really does make it feel more personal for the user, and it makes it feel like, hey, like, this isn't just an ad that someone is paying just to show the entirety of the platform and hope that I see it. They're showing me this on purpose, right? They're showing me this on purpose. I've heard the name before, maybe, so let me look, right? And then they click through, they see the website, they maybe see some of the products, and that kind of stokes their curiosity. And being in such a research focused mindset already on the platform majority of the time, this is great, and a great place to actually inject yourself into that user's thought process of what food I should buy my hamster next. 100%. And that really just speaks to Redditisms as well, which Redditism would be something like, TLDR, which stands for too lazy didn't read, which pretty much means if you have a freeform post and you have a ton of information, just like how users would on a Reddit post normally, they would have a TLDR at the top or bottom, which gives a synopsis of everything that is in the text. so that people who want the information, but maybe don't have the time at this exact moment to read all of it, they can see that TLDR and still get the most valuable information out of it. And it really just, feels like Reddit. It feels like you've done your research. You know what works on the platform. You know how people talk on the platform. And this is a great way of showing that you actually care, which is, I think, the biggest thing for the platform, is to show you care from an advertising sense, and people are going to care about your product as well. I think that goes to show from, this example here where they are utilizing a subreddit inside of their copy, right? They're calling out a specific subreddit that they know is talking about a certain topic, and they're bringing some humor to it as well. And this is where we see immense amount of success on the platform. And it's a great way of driving, ad awareness and a lift in ad awareness across all of your channels.
And I love this because you are taking an ad and not just sort of interrupting someone's stream,
Exactly.
but you're having a conversation with them, right? You're addressing that community in a way that, I think feels more authentic than, some other types of ad units out there.
And I think, Brandy, that's a great, and I think just to round it out, I think that's a fantastic thing that you pointed out in terms of you're not breaking up their flow. You're adding to it, right? I mean, you're adding value to that. They're on Reddit to see things that are funny, to see things that are informative, and to be influenced in a way that you wouldn't normally be influenced on other platforms, by either engaging in more knowledge gaining in a topic you're interested in that maybe you're not an expert in, but you want to be, right? Or a service that you need, like this here, which is maybe some people want to take an additional driving course, right? They want to be a little bit more skilled in driving, and that's totally fine. And what's a great way of addressing users who are in r/idiots in cars than people who are bad at driving, right? And people like to watch people be bad at driving. And if you're watching people be bad at driving, you probably see yourself as pretty good at driving, right? So it's like, why not enhance those people that already see themselves in that light and say, hey, we know you like to watch this. Don't get caught on r/idiots in driving. Take this course and try and benefit from it in a way that those people are not, right? So I think that's a great call out. That's really everything I had from a topic standpoint. What this looks like from a actual advertising sense is just an ad account creation on redditads.com. Takes about 2 seconds. Reddit pixel is super important, like you had mentioned previously, Brandy, for making sure the KPIs are reporting properly, create best practices, as well as making sure the actual targeting aligns. And that's something that I work with Brandy as well on, is making sure the targeting is aligned as best it possibly can to our audience, to make sure that we're showing only to people that we feel are going to be the best possible candidate for the product.
Can we talk a little bit about, I know you didn't touch on it in this deck, but it's a fairly new program, but it's the Reddit catalog.
Yes.
Program. I did want to maybe touch on that a little bit, if we could just talk through that.
100%.
That's something that we're using, and I love it. I think it's awesome.
100%. And that's something that I had mentioned a little bit. I mentioned a little bit about previously in terms of what we're trying to do to enhance CPG on the platform. From an advertising stance, the catalog is something that we've tried to utilize to make it easier for people like yourself to have products on the platform, make it easier to either show those ads or even create those ads for you through automated delivery. There's 2 different ways of utilizing catalogs. As you know, there's the standard way of maybe creating a catalog of all this product, and you choose which ones you want to show during a campaign or on an ad group. You can also have it set up through automated delivery, so it will take the catalog that you have and automatically deliver what it thinks is going to perform best based on the user that it's showing to. So there's 2 different ways, and it's something we're growing consistently, and we're really trying to make sure through campaigns like yourselves, Brandy, to make sure that it's aligning best with what you would want the product to be. And I'm taking all of that feedback and showing it to our product development team as well as our targeting team, to make sure that they're aligned with what you want, because ultimately it's you and the client that matter most. And if you guys have a product recommendation that you feel like would be better suited for your needs, that's something that we take and we're going to grow. From an advertising sense, we're growing very, very fast. And I think from a user base, we're also growing very, very fast, even though we've been around since 2005, right? So it's pretty it's a pretty great time for Reddit overall, not just as a user, but as an advertiser too. And we're really trying to lean into that to make sure it's as successful as possible.
20 years to be an overnight success, right?
Yeah, that's what they say, I guess. I don't know. That's what they say. But I do think it's something where if you put in the work, right, which I think Reddit has done, put in the work to make sure that the platform is the best it possibly can be. And they recently are trying to make it so once the platform is set up to a point of success for its users, that's when we can try and sort of bring in advertisers to enhance the space, and exactly what we were talking about in the last slide, where we're not breaking up that flow of feed. We're trying to enhance that feed in a way that makes it actually feel natural, which I think is that's the thing a lot of advertisers are missing, where they're trying to be an ad when I think what we're really trying to do is be another post on the platform. And you can be a post and still advertise a product, right? If you do it right.
Exactly. That's well said. And just to go back to the catalogs really quick,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just so you guys know how that sort of works is if you have a Shopify store, there can be a direct feed. Basically, we can set up like a little sort of mini product catalog in Reddit. So people are, kind of on their feed, they're in their subreddit, they see you're offering your sort of a sample of your product assortment directly from Shopify.
Yep.
So there are some like, kind of connections that we can make that really make this, even more powerful than just kind of putting an ad on the platform.
100%. And I think that's the ultimate goal is to, it's easy just to throw an ad up there, but it's not easy to make it feel as natural as possible and to actually give information that's going to benefit the consumer. And that's what I'm here for. And that's what we've been working toward. And ultimately, that's what I think the platform's ultimate goal is from an advertising sense, is making sure it feels natural for the user and actually benefits them.
Yeah. And I mean, I've really have, we benefited so much from our relationship with Reddit. Just a little bit more about us. We are, as I mentioned, an omni-channel commerce and performance marketing agency. So we do work with a range of other platforms. We work with Amazon, Walmart, Instacart, all the way to the social platforms. We do Klaviyo, we're Klaviyo partners, and we do, we're Reddit partners as well. So we sort of touch a lot of different, types of platforms, but, I'm really bullish on Reddit and what it can do for a wide spectrum of our clients. So just a little bit more about me. You can see me quoted in Digiday. I've spoken at South by Southwest. I've spoken at, Cannes Lions in France at the Amazon port. So, I do a lot of sort of thought leadership on the subjects. We have our own sort of set of, sort of industries that we work with, a lot of CPG, a lot of hospitality, but overall, just a quick look at our services. We do omni-channel commerce, performance marketing, digital shelf optimization, marketplace management, social media. Social commerce is also part of our bread and butter, which is sort of, how we work with Reddit. We also work with influencers and creators. We segment them out. There's influencers and then there's creators, right? We have our own sort of city studio where we shoot a lot of content. We do brand strategy, creative services, web design and development, email marketing, and then marketing automation as well. And then we do have some retailers that we work with. So we do a lot of retail and shopper marketing. So if you're interested in a little bit more about us, you can reach us at tandemtide.com. And we can put together a really good Reddit strategy and bring that over to Liam and kind of get you guys to the next level with Reddit. Any closing thoughts, Liam?
No, I mean, I appreciate you, Brandy, being so open to the partnership and being, so keen to try new things. And I think that's something that you do really, really well, is make sure that, the clients that you would deal with are getting a piece of everything that they possibly can. And I think a lot of, other agencies may have an understanding about Reddit, but I think it's taking it to the next level of actually doing something on the platform that really, I think, speaks to, what you guys do over there. And I think that's something that a lot of other agencies can look at and really make sure that they're trying to do for their clients too. And ultimately, I think you understand the value of Reddit, and I think a lot of other people are too. And this is kind of just the groundwork and the fundamental. I mean, like you said, 20 years to become an overnight success. And I think here we are at the ground level, and it's only going to go up.
Awesome. Anyone else have any other questions? There's a lot of good questions today. So Well, feel free to reach out to me, Brandy at tandemtide.com, and we'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot.